It started like any other day, or at least I thought it did. I was sitting in my small apartment, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on my chest. The smell of burnt coffee still lingered from breakfast, and the faint hum of the city outside was a dull background noise. I had just lost my job, laid off without warning, no severance, no goodbye, just a swift email that left me numb. My hands trembled as I sank into the worn-out couch, trying to process what had just happened. My mind kept circling around the same questions. How am I supposed to pay rent? What do I do now? And most painfully, where was she? I glanced at my phone, no messages from her. No calls, just silence. Usually she'd text me during the day, ask how I was holding up, or tease me about some ridiculous meme. But today, nothing. That felt weird, but I shrugged it off. Maybe she was busy, or maybe she was just upset about my job situation, same as I was. An hour later, the doorbell rang. Weird, I thought. I wasn't expecting anyone. I got up, still feeling hollow, and opened the door. Standing there was my best friend, Mark, and he looked serious, more serious than I'd ever seen him. His eyes darted around like he was trying to hide something. "Hey man," he said, voice tight. "Can we talk?" "Yeah, sure." I stepped aside, letting him in. Something about the way he looked at me unspokenly screamed trouble. Before I could ask what was wrong, he took a deep breath and started talking. "It's about your wife," he said. His voice cracked just a little, and I felt a jolt run through my stomach. My wife, Rachel. I didn't even realize I'd clenched my fists until I saw my palms sweat. "What about her?" I managed to ask, my throat dry. Mark hesitated, then looked away. "I saw her last night with my own eyes. They were together, behind your back." My heart slammed against my ribs like a fist. I froze, processing what he just said. My wife meeting with my best friend behind my back. My mind spun out of control. The words felt like a punch to the gut, but what hurt more was the cold, hard truth settling in. "Are you serious?" I finally managed to say, voice hoarse. He nodded slowly. "They were at that stupid little bar downtown, the one she always said she hated. She was with someone, and it was definitely her. They were close, whispering, laughing like they didn't give a damn who saw them." The room seemed to tilt. His words echoed in my head, fatting into a dull roar. I could feel my face grow hot, fists clenched at my sides. I didn't want to believe it, but there it was, clear as day. My wife cheating on me with my best friend. Where is she now? I heard myself ask, voice trembling. Mark looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight. "I don't know, I haven't seen her since. She left in a hurry like she was running from something. I tried calling her, but she hasn't answered." My stomach twisted. I had no idea what to do, my mind a jumble of anger, betrayal, and confusion. How could she? How could she do this to me, especially right now? I just lost everything, and she was out there with him, betraying our vows. I looked at Mark, feeling the rage bubble. Thanks for telling me, I need to think." He looked at me with concern. "You okay?" "Yeah," I lied, "thanks." But I knew I wasn't okay, not even close. My world was crumbling, and I had no idea what was coming next. What I did know was that the girl I loved had vanished, and I wasn't going to let this slide. Not without a fight. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept spinning in circles, images of her with Mark, their laughter, the way she looked at him like he was the only thing that mattered. My stomach clenched so tightly I thought I might throw up. The betrayal was like a needle digging into my chest, but beneath that, a dark, simmering fire started to burn. I was angry, yes, but more than that, I was hurt. Deep down, I felt lost, like I'd been hit by a truck and left to bleed on the side of the road. I stared at the ceiling in the darkness, listening to the distant sirens and the faint hum of the city. My hands were cold, palms slick, and I kept replaying her face, her smile, her laugh, those little things I had taken for granted. How long had she been lying to me? How long had she been sneaking around? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I needed answers. And if she was going to run, I'd make sure she knew I was coming for her. The next morning, I started planning. Maybe it was petty, maybe it was wrong, but I needed to see her, to confront her face to face, not just through texts or hurried phone calls. I had to know why she did it, what made her throw away everything we'd built. I sat at my desk, scrolling through her social media, trying to find some clue, some hint about where she could be. That's when I saw the message. A simple, coded message from her, sent late last night. It was a picture, her sitting at a coffee shop, her face turned away but her hand was clear, clenched around something. I zoomed in, heart pounding. Her fingers gripped a small, silver keychain I'd given her on our third anniversary. It was a tiny, insignificant thing to anyone else, but to me, it was a sign she was still close, maybe even hiding something. Here, I printed the screenshot, then grabbed my phone to call Mark again. I needed him to come over fast. I needed to talk to him face to face to get more details. But as I waited, my stomach was twisted so tight I could barely breathe. I kept thinking about how easily she had slipped away, how she just vanished like a ghost in the wind. Left behind her phone, her clothes, her keys, everything normal, everything untouched, except for that damn keychain. When Mark arrived, I showed him the message. She's hiding something, that keychain, she never takes it off, not even when she's sleeping. My voice was heavy with suspicion. Something's wrong, I can feel it. Mark nodded. Maybe she's at her mom's house or she's trying to disappear. Either way, I think she's planning to run. If she's got that key, she's hiding out somewhere or she's planning her escape. I clenched my fists. So what's the plan? Do I go after her or do I wait? Mark looked uncomfortable again. You need to see her. But be careful. If she's running from something, it's probably because she's scared. Maybe she's not the girl you thought she was, or maybe she's not the girl she pretended to be. That was the moment I decided. I wasn't going to sit around waiting for her to come back with some excuse. I needed to take control to show her I wasn't going to be played for a fool. I spent the next few hours researching her habits, her contacts, and her favorite places. I even drove to her favorite cafe just in case she was hiding there. Nothing. It was like she disappeared into thin air. By evening, I was ready. I knew where she might go, her best friend's apartment, her mother's place, a friend she kept secret, but I wasn't interested in waiting anymore. I was going to find her, confront her, and get some real answers, because if she thought she could just run and hide, she had another thing coming. I sat in my car outside her mother's house, heart pounding. I watched the windows, waiting for her to appear. When I saw movement, her figure slipping out the door like a shadow, my blood boiled. I got out, my fists clenched, and called her name. A cold, sharp voice cut through the quiet night. Rachel, she froze, her eyes wide with that guilty look I'd come to hate, and in that moment I knew I wasn't just going to ask her why. I was about to give her a reason to regret ever crossing me. I stepped toward her, every muscle in my body tense, my eyes locked on her like a predator stalking its prey. Her face was pale, shoulders trembling, and for a moment I saw something I hadn't expected: fear. Good. That's what she deserved. I clenched my jaw and kept my voice steady, though my insides roared with anger. Rachel, I said, voice low and dangerous, what the hell is going on? She looked like she wanted to run, but I blocked her path. I can explain, she stammered, her hands trembling as she fumbled with her purse. You're damn right you can, I snapped, crossing my arms. Explain why you've been sneaking around behind my back, meeting with Mark, and then disappearing like a ghost. Her eyes darted away for a second, then back to me. It's not what you think. I was trying to figure things out. I didn't want to hurt you. Hurt me? I echoed, voice rising. You've been lying to me from the start. I lost my job and you just vanished, probably with him. Do you even realize how much that hurts? How much I hate that I ever trusted you? She looked ready to cry, tears welling up and spilling down her cheeks. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I felt trapped. I thought maybe if I met someone else I could find clarity. I didn't want to hurt you, I swear. I felt my fists curl tighter. You thought cheating on me was the answer. That meeting with Mark behind my back was supposed to help you find clarity. Do you even hear yourself? She swallowed hard, voice breaking. It's not like that. I didn't plan for it to go this far. I was just lost. Lost, I echoed bitterly. You're only lost to yourself, and now you're gone without a trace. You took the key I gave you and you just disappeared. Did you think you could run from this, just slip away and I'd forget? No, she started, but I cut her off. You're damn right you're going to explain, and I want the truth, all of it. Her breathing hitched and she looked like she was about to collapse. I had to be careful. I knew if I pushed harder she might bolt again and I couldn't let her get away, but I also knew I couldn't let her keep lying to me. You don't get to walk away from this, I said quietly. You're going to tell me everything now or I swear there'll be consequences. She looked at me, eyes red and swollen, and finally nodded. Okay. okay, I'll tell you the truth. Just give me a minute." And I stood there cold and furious, watching her try to compose herself. I felt the weight of everything crashing down: betrayal, anger, that gnawing sense of loss. I didn't know what was about to come out of her mouth, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let her slip away without a fight. Not anymore. Not after everything. She took a shaky breath, her eyes searching mine for a moment as if trying to gauge whether I'd actually listen. Part of me wanted to scream, to shake her and demand she tell me the truth already, but I held back. I needed her to finish, to own up to what she'd done. "It's complicated," she started, voice trembling. "I didn't plan for any of this. I met Mark a few weeks ago. We just clicked. It was like I was finally breathing again. I didn't mean to hurt you, I swear. But after losing my job, everything felt like it was falling apart. I felt trapped, like I was suffocating. Mark made me feel alive again, even if it was just for a little while. I thought maybe if I met with him, I'd find a way out of the mess I was in. I clenched my jaw so hard I thought it might crack. "So that's it, that's your excuse. You cheated on me because you were lost. And what disappeared because you couldn't handle reality." She looked down, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't want to lose what we had. That's why I kept pretending everything was fine. But I was drowning and I didn't know how to ask for help, so I ran." My stomach twisted into a knot. I could feel my hands trembling with rage. "And the night you ran, you met him, Mark, while I was sitting at home feeling like my world was collapsing. You were with him behind my back and you didn't even have the decency to call or tell me you were leaving." Her voice broke. "I was scared. I didn't want to hurt you anymore. That's why I left a note, because I couldn't face you. I thought maybe if I just disappeared, it would all just go away. I didn't want to cause a scene." I took a step back, trying to process what she'd just said. It was all bullshit, plain and simple. She had lied to me from the start, and now she was trying to justify it with tears and excuses. I felt my chest tighten and a cold rage bubbled up. I'd given her everything: my trust, my love, and this is what I got in return: a used-up excuse for betrayal. "You really think I'm stupid, don't you?" I spat. "You think you can just cry your way out of it and I'll forgive you? Nah. I see right through you, Rachel. You did run because you were lost. You ran because you were scared, scared of losing everything, especially Mark, your little secret. That's all this was, your way to escape." She looked at me, eyes pleading. "Please, don't do this. I love you. I never wanted to hurt you." I shook my head, disgusted. "Love? You call this love? Cheating, sneaking around, then vanishing like you never existed. That's not love. That's a selfish game you played." My voice cracked, but I kept my tone steady. "Well, I've had enough. I want my keys, my ring, everything that belongs to me, and I want you to leave. I don't want to see you again, not unless you're ready to be honest and take responsibility for what you did." Her shoulders sagged and she finally looked defeated. "You're right. I messed up. I'll leave. I didn't mean for it to go this far." I reached into my pocket, pulling out the keys, feeling their cold weight in my hand. "Good. Leave tonight. Don't come back." I hesitated, then added with a dark tone, "And don't think you can just come crawling back when things get hard, because I'm done waiting for explanations. This is over." She nodded silently, voice barely a whisper. "Okay." Watching her turn away and walk down the street, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd finally confronted her, gotten the truth, and cut ties, but somehow it still didn't feel like enough. I knew this wasn't the end. Not really. She had left a mess I wasn't sure I'd ever fully clean up. Still, I held that key in my hand, cold, unyielding, and made a promise to myself. I wouldn't let her or anyone else destroy what little I had left. That night I sat in my apartment, staring at the empty space where she used to be, and wondered what the hell I was supposed to do next. The betrayal cut deep, but I knew one thing: I wasn't going to be the fool anymore. From now on, I'd rebuild something stronger, something real, and I'd never let someone hurt me like that again. The days that followed felt like walking through a fog. My apartment, once filled with her laughter and her scent, was now silent, except for the occasional creak of the old wood floors or the distant hum of cars outside. I kept the keys she left behind, not because I wanted to keep a reminder of her, but because I couldn't quite bring myself to toss them out. They felt like the last piece of her, something tangible to hold onto, even if it was just a symbol of everything gone wrong. I threw myself into work, trying to drown out the ache that had settled in my chest. I didn't want to think about her, not really. But the more I pushed her out of my mind, the more her face haunted me in my sleep. I kept replaying that night, every word, every look, trying to find some fault in her story, anything that would justify her betrayal. But deep down, I knew she'd lied. She lied about everything. One evening, I found myself in the local bar, sitting alone with a glass of whiskey. It was a pathetic attempt to numb what I was feeling, but it wasn't enough. I stared into the amber liquid, feeling the warmth spread through my chest. My phone buzzed on the bar. I looked at it, no caller ID, just a message. It was from an unknown number. I hesitated. Then read, "You deserve the truth, meet me. I have something to show you." My stomach twisted. I wasn't in the mood for games, but part of me felt compelled to find out what this was about. Maybe it was her finally coming clean, or maybe just another lie. The next morning, I decided to go. I took the address from the message and drove to a rundown parking lot on the outskirts of town. There, standing beside a battered old van, was Mark. His face looked grim, and I immediately sensed he knew more than he'd told me. "So, you got my message," I said, voice cold and clipped. He nodded slowly. "I thought you should see for yourself. This isn't just about her cheating. There's more, something I didn't tell you before, something you need to know if you're serious about ending this." I crossed my arms. "Spit it out, Mark. I don't have all day." He looked around, then leaned in slightly. "Rachel isn't just running from us. She's hiding something in her phone, something she's been trying to delete, but I got a copy of it. It's a recording, something that could change everything." My pulse quickened. "A recording of what?" He hesitated. "Her talking to someone, trying to cover her tracks. It's her voice, but what she's saying, it's about you. About how she was planning her escape, how she's been lying from the start." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My mind raced with questions. Who was she really working with? Was it just Mark, or was there someone else? I looked at him, desperate for more details. "Where is it?" I demanded. Mark pulled out a small flash drive from his pocket and handed it to me. "Be careful with this. It's the real deal. If you want to know the truth, you need to listen." I took it, feeling its weight in my hand like a stone. "Thanks," I said, voice hoarse. "This is more than I bargained for, but I needed to see it for myself." As I turned to leave, Mark added, "One thing, be prepared. Whatever she said, whatever's on that recording, it's going to hurt. But it'll also give you clarity. Trust me, she's not who you think she is." I nodded and drove home, clutching the drive like a weapon. Once inside, I sat on the couch, plugged it into my laptop, and pressed play. The room fell silent as her voice filled the speakers, calm but cold. She was talking about plans, about running away, about making sure her tracks were covered. The words cut through me like a knife. It was everything I'd feared. She'd been planning this all along. My stomach clenched. My hands trembled as I listened, every word confirming my worst fears. She'd betrayed me beyond what I imagined. And now I was left with a choice: stay and keep chasing some false hope, or finally face the truth and do what I'd been planning. Give her a taste of what she'd dish out. The plan was clear. I knew what I had to do. I would make her see that betraying someone like me came with consequences, and I would be the one to deliver them. The recording played in my ears like a death knell. Rachel's voice, cold and calculated, detailed her plans to disappear. She was talking about leaving town, cutting all ties, and starting fresh somewhere she couldn't be found. The worst part was her confidence, like she thought she was smarter than everyone, like I was too naive to see what she'd become. I sat there, stomach churning, the room spinning around me. For a long moment I felt numb, like I'd been doused in ice water. I knew what I had to do next. I'd waited long enough, hoped long enough. I reached for my phone, dialed her number I still had saved from all those months of marriage. I hesitated just a second before hitting call, then let it ring. No answer. Of course not. She was probably hiding somewhere, avoiding me, trying to erase herself from everything. I grabbed my keys, my wallet, and as I stood up, I looked around the apartment. Everything I'd worked for, everything I thought was real. Gone, just like her promises. I'd been a fool to trust her, but I didn't want her to get away with it. I walked out into the cold night, feeling a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. No more waiting, no more lying to myself. I knew what I had to do to protect what little dignity I had left. I drove to her apartment, where I previously thought I'd find her, but it was empty now. No sign she'd ever been there. That's when I realized she'd already moved on, probably leaving behind the last pieces of her old life, hoping I'd never find her. Instead of chasing her, I went to my own plan, one I'd thought out carefully. I'd given her enough chances, enough rope to hang herself with her lies. Now I was going to make her regret everything in a way that she'd never see coming. I knew her secret, her lies, her betrayal, and I knew what to do about it. I returned home, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. My mind was clear, focused on the final step. I took the keys from the table, the ones I'd kept just in case, and headed to her apartment building. It was quiet, like it always was late at night. I slipped inside, quietly, holding my breath. In her bedroom, I found her phone and her diary. Carefully, I copied the recordings, saved them on a drive, and made sure I had all her messages. I wanted her to feel the weight of everything she'd hidden from me. Then, I took the keys she'd left behind, her final token of betrayal, and placed them inside an envelope. Next, I sealed the envelope and wrote a simple note. You wanted to run, so run, but don't come back. This is the end of us. I left it on her pillow, knowing she'd find it in the morning. My heart hammered in my chest, but I felt a strange sense of closure. As I stepped outside, I looked up at the dark sky. The city was asleep, unaware of the quiet revenge I'd just carried out. I felt the cold air on my skin, the sharp sting of betrayal still fresh but fading. I had taken back my power, reclaimed my dignity, and that was it. I closed the door behind me and walked away, leaving her behind, her secrets, her lies, her vanished life. I knew I'd be okay now. Because sometimes the only way to heal is to cut out what's toxic and move forward, and I had done just that. The lesson: trust is fragile and betrayal cuts deep. But sometimes the best revenge is simply walking away and rebuilding, stronger, wiser, and finally free.